Hey everyone, there's been a murder. According to an anonymous tip, illicit human meat is being served at the Dinosaur Rights Convention taking place at the Cretaceous Hotel, where Yarn Zero, the first dinosaur admitted to a human political party, is set to deliver the keynote speech. Tensions are running high, and the human authorities can't afford the bad optics of a raid without definite proof of both victim and perpetrator, which is where Dinocop comes in. Half dino, half cop, all bastard. Especially the way I play him. This didn't feel good, I'll be honest. The job is simple. Get into the festival, case the joint, and find the murderer. Could it be Kronjaeger the Butcher and his associate Paco, a pair of secretive meatmongers looking to expand operations beyond the confines of the law? Or is it Carmen, the popular dinosaur activist who rages at the hypocrisy of having a taboo on eating human meat while most have no issue consuming equally sapient brontosaurs, and is happy to advocate for the consumption of man flesh? Might her disciples in Appyblop be looking to turn the tables on the humans who regularly prey upon them? Paula the organizer seems clean, but could her crew of last-minute substitute assistants be planning something sinister? Then, of course, there's Paula's sister, Sarah, the hotel chef. Could the meat have come out of her kitchen? What about the human serial killer staying in room 102? And then there's Fuck Off Steve, washed-up punk rocker who might be looking to reclaim some of his old cred. Almost everyone has a motive. Almost everyone has an alibi, and almost everyone wants nothing to do with a guy like Dinocop. You've got your work cut out for you on this one. Dinocop is the work of Pisces Games, a first-person detective adventure title that's quickly become one of my favourites. It's a game that really defies categorization, ironically enough. It throws so many ideas together in ways that shouldn't work. The cartoony art style, the biting political satire, the light investigation mechanics, the dark tone, yet somehow it does. Dinocop made me laugh, it made me sad, it made me angry, it was confronting, it was frustrating, and it kept me guessing all the way to the end. So let's talk about it. But before I get my hands into the guts of this game, Dinocop is another title that you can really only play once. So if what I've said sounds interesting, please go pick it up. It's a little bit Outer Wilds, it's a little bit Disco Elysium, it's a little bit Jurassic Park. It's just a great time all round, and the video will still be here once you're done. Also, this video and everything I make for the channel is now made possible by the generous support of people on Patreon, so if you like what I do and want to see more, please consider donating. If you can't support monthly, Ko-Fi is also an option, and if financial support isn't possible but you still want to help the channel out, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, share it around, and let me know what you think. Any engagement is appreciated. Anyway, let's get to it. This is Dinocop. The investigation starts off strong when you arrive to find this guy chomping on a strip of jerky, but a quick look around the front of the hotel reveals it to be nothing more than common mammoth meat. The receptionist doesn't even believe you if you bring up the fact there might be human meat somewhere on the premises, though he does confirm whoever called in the tip is still somewhere in the building since no one's left the hotel all morning. And before you can even get your bearings, you're found by a ghostly presence. When you wake up the next morning, you're met by Kronjaeger, who is only too sorry to hear about what happened the previous night, but hey, he promised your partner Mark he'll be there to help if you need anything else. This signals the true beginning of your stay at Hotel Cretaceous. From here on out, there are basically no restrictions. You can approach the mystery in whatever way you want, follow up leads in any order you want, but I mostly just wanted to get to know the other guests. There might be a whole convention's worth of suspects to investigate, but at least you'll never mistake one for the other. Dinocop's colourful, cartoony art direction might seem simple at first glance, but it's sophisticated enough to offer a lot of extra personality to each and every character, even between members of the same species. Many of the dinosaurs present at the Cretaceous Hotel are raptors, up to and including Dinocop himself, but his Sherlock Holmes getup is obviously different from Fuck Off Steve's sleeveless jacket, or Adore the Bartosaur's piercings, or Bianca's hat. Even stripped bare, they stand apart by the bright colours of their feathers. Scales? It's kind of hard to tell. The art design allows for either interpretation. Hair is rendered on the human characters in the same sculpted plastic way, so the art design supports either interpretation, even with the pebbling most of the dinosaurs have. My point is, each character has a unique look that makes them pop in a crowd, even when the base models are very similar. The three members of Appyblop are all rocking different coloured shirts. Kronjaeger's apron sets him apart from the camera dino's black cap. Sarah's chef's whites differentiate her from her sister Paola's quiet blacks, and the ancestral diet influencer's extremely loud Hawaiian shirt. There are a handful of generic NPCs wandering naked around the hotel, but they're the exception rather than the rule. Most of the dinosaurs present at the convention are actual characters given personality through their appearance as much as their dialogue. Carmen and Bert, both strong proponents of dinolism, go without clothes, while Yarn Zero shows up rocking a tailored suit. It does help that all three are unique in their species, and so the game has to put in less effort to make them stand out from the sea of raptors, but it's still great character design, enough so that I was able to recognise Yarn as a Psittacosaurus from a glance, despite that dinosaur being relatively obscure compared to Triceratops or Spinosaurus or Brontosaurus. I don't know what species these guys are meant to be though. The only thing all the dinosaurs share are their animations. All the theropods move with this very charming waddle, and I love the hand puppet way mouths flap during conversations. Dinocop gets the Tyrannosaur's share of unique animations, like his little hop whenever you find a new item, or how he strikes the Velociraptor pose whenever uncovering a new case. I love the way he lowers his head to run, too. Nice attention to detail there. But all the dinosaurs on the clock get a couple distinct movements. Sarah cooks, Conrad mans the kitchen sink, Bazaar is constantly on the phone. Combined with the way they're always moving around the hotel according to their schedules, the place comes off as a living, breathing slice of this world. It reminded me a lot of The Simpsons, where every character can be identified through silhouette alone, though The Land Before Time seems to be a more direct inspiration here, especially with Carmen, who shares the same lumpy crest many of the pteranodons in that franchise had. The Cretaceous Hotel, by contrast, feels like something out of Sly Raccoon, an exaggerated pastiche of a real-world place made to accommodate the large proportions of its dinosaur guests. This is not a human space repurposed for dinosaur habitation. It's been built from the ground up with their needs in mind. Dinocop might be pretty small for a dinosaur, but he's still about twice the size of an adult human being, so imagine how big this space must be as a result. It feels pretty big anyway, despite being made up of only 7 or 8 areas, because of how the space is presented visually. You can't really see the diner from the convention hall, or the lounge from the lobby, or the upper floors from the garden, so they feel distant despite them all being easily accessible to one another. The only exception is the courtyard, which sits in the centre of the hotel and offers quick access to every other area. It's the only part of the environment you can see from just about everywhere else, and so acts as an anchor for the play space. All you have to do is look out a window and you'll know exactly where you are. Hell, look anywhere at all and you'll get a good idea. Each area of the hotel has its own vibe. The basement lounge has a warm, lazy kind of feeling to it with wood paneling that soaks up the light from the roaring fire. The convention hall is a massive space made small by the kiosks and exhibits squeezing the crowd together down arterial thoroughfares. The diner's checkered tiles and big upholstered booths give it a retro feel that captures both the chaos of a lunch rush and the quiet of the hours in between. In fact, how well the day-night cycle affected the environment was really impressive. Dinocop is not a horror game, but the droning gloom that smothers the hotel come the witching hour gave the place a liminal quality that had the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. The hotel is never completely deserted, there's always someone doing something somewhere, but crowds come and go as the hours tick by, and late at night, with most of the guests asleep in bed, it feels like you're breaking the rules creeping around. It helps that the hotel is fully interactive. The place is lousy with mold. There are rats and God knows what else scratching through the walls. You can have a sit down or eat the food, and it all sells the environment as an actual place. The sound is less striking, but equally as important. Dinocop has no voice acting. Everyone speaks with Banjo-Kazooie style beeps and boops that reinforces the cartoony art direction. The rest of the audio design skews much more realistic, the muffled talking heads coming off the TVs, the rattle of Adora's mixer, the hiss of curtains and whine of air conditioning units, the crunch of grass or carpet under claw, the constant burble of the courtyard fountain. None of it comes off as exaggerated or silly, which helps ground the setting when things suddenly do get very serious. Things might look simple on the surface, but listen and you'll hear the harsh reality of it hiding just out of sight. The music is pretty unobtrusive by comparison. It doesn't want to get in the way of cracking the case. It's the expected spread of noir-appropriate jazz, and it wasn't really for me, aside from the debate intro. The dance track. And one track that I can't spoil because it plays at a pivotal moment, where it suddenly leaps to the forefront to hammer the plot beat home. It changes with the time of day, slowly fading away as the night wears on until you're left with nothing but an ominous drone. That was fun. The little jingles that play whenever you find a new item or crack a case were much more memorable to my ear. I was always happy to hear them. My only real criticisms of Dinocop's presentation are the tabs in the journal. It lacks the detail present elsewhere in the visual design, though the sound effects are perfectly fine. And one time I got stuck against a wall and had to reload, but that was all. Most of the time, Dinocop did an excellent job at making me forget I was playing a video game. I actually really like how small the hotel is, because it means all the details are extremely dense, as you can see from one look at the caseboard or the timetable. Laid out in front of you, it feels extremely complicated, but it's not insurmountable. Every time you go somewhere to investigate something, you end up on the trail of something new. It just draws you along so organically, you don't even notice that it's happening. For the first few hours, I didn't even care about solving the mystery. I just wanted to explore, and I was having so much fun that when it suddenly pulled the rug out from under me with a confronting image, like these butchered brontosauruses in the kitchens, it was like, oh, yeah, right, of course. Dinocop is an explicitly political work from its opening moments, and for some people that's an automatic deal breaker. The second your shithead partner Mark hits you with, quote, you're different from the other dinos, you're cool, you don't get offended when I make really cool jokes, end quote. After saying the most racist garbage you've ever heard, some probably hit Alt F4 and never looked back. But while Dinocop certainly has a lot to say about law enforcement, it's more nuanced than left good, right bad. Something that sets Dinocop apart from that other well-known cop simulator, Cabaret Paradise, is that the titular protagonist is a member of a minority group himself. In fact, he was literally born to be a cop. This is not a world where dinosaurs exist without humanity. Instead, John Hammond succeeded in his Jurassic Park dreams, only to discover his prehistoric attractions are sentient, and while they eventually won their freedom, Dinocop himself was manufactured specifically to be a police officer because no other dinosaur wanted the job. The trailer even calls him a signed cop at birth, so he is not here because he wants to be, he's here because he has no other choice, doing the best he can in a system specifically designed to keep individuals like him repressed. He can't stand his ignorant co-workers and has no way to reform the system from within, but he also can't find solidarity with other dinosaurs because most consider him a traitor for being a cop at all. The game doesn't absolve Dinocop just by virtue of him being a minority either. Even without player input, the story has him be ignorant of dinosaur-specific issues and manipulative of suspects to get behind closed doors. With player input, he becomes an absolute scumbag, happy to skim a few bills from any unlocked register, or threaten someone over a minor offense because it targeted him specifically, or announce on live television that he'd happily eat the guy sitting across the debate floor from him, and that's not even the worst you can make him do. He's not a good person. He's only better than the human cops he works with, and that's a low bar to clear when we're talking about insufferable dickheads like Mark. If this guy's a casual racist, I'd hate to meet one who's full-time. It's a testament to the game's writing that you don't even notice it in the moment either. All these things are part of the gameplay loop. Some of them are necessary to solving the case. Outside of burgling the diner, everything I did seemed reasonable at the time, and Dinocop is the player character, so he must be the hero, but looking back on it, he does some nasty shit to get his man. It's only the game's tongue-in-cheek tone that holds him back from being outwardly unlikable. Having him act as the straight man in almost every situation went a long way in justifying some of his more extreme methods, but it doesn't excuse him completely. It helps that he's not totally ignorant. Despite being raised by humans, he does note that his previous run-ins with Carmen were built on shoddy legal foundations at best, and even he calls the ancestral diet influencer on his bullshit when he suggests Triceratopses always ate meat, and you're a deep state compy for claiming otherwise. A lot of Dinocop's character arc is actually reconciling the purpose he was given with the person he's become. Even his name, Dinocop, is a reflection of how little thought went into his creation. The humans that had him made only needed him to be this one thing, and can't see him ever existing beyond it. Skunky, the machine that eats garbage, doesn't like that at all, so calls Dinocop different names whenever you drop in with some cans to recycle. In fact, when you first meet, it balks at the idea of ever taking orders from someone whose name is their job, like the janitor. You'll have to rename yourself to Garbage Dino, indeed. It's all very nature versus nurture, though it's certainly not the focus of Dinocop's satire. More than law enforcement specifically, Dinocop is a critique of systemic injustice, societal complacency, and the current culture of distraction to keep civil rights from actually improving, so the handful of powerful men at the top can remain where they are. And it can be vicious in its commentary. A news report reveals that the two main political parties, the Progress Pro Party and the Kill All Dinosaurs Party, are running neck and neck at 49.99999% each in the upcoming election. But don't worry about the name of that second group. A spokesperson clarified it's just a turn of phrase. They'll only kill the bad ones. Not that the Progress Pro Party is any better, given their less dinos, better dinos policy is a key aspect of their campaign, one masquerading as a harm reduction program that on paper sounds pretty good, but is actually an attempt to control who in society should be allowed to reproduce, not unlike the real-life eugenics racket that is overpopulation theory. It's a distinction without a difference. The system exists to protect itself regardless of which side of the aisle can claim majority, and while Dinocop is first and foremost a satire of the current political climate in America, I can see other Anglosphere countries in amongst the criticism too. In Australia and the UK, it's currently the incumbent Labour governments that have implemented wide-ranging, anti-privacy social media bans under the pretense of protecting children. Pisces Games hails from Canada, I believe, and I'm not as well versed in the situation over there as I am at home, but I'm certain someone more familiar with that particular political landscape would find a fair few threads to pull on here in Dinocop as well. On the surface, it's all very blunt, but in a world where nuance is dead, it kind of needs to be in order to get a word in. Just as much time is spent taking shots at grifters capitalizing off the culture war with influencer courses and harmful lifestyle choices, or talking heads leaning on the correct dog whistle buzzwords in lieu of actually engaging with the conversation, or supposedly self-made men who only got to where they are today with Daddy's help, or people who give their unsolicited opinions whether they understand the topic or not. And first of all, how fucking dare you? But even all that is made with a gentle tongue-in-cheek touch. The self-absorbed ancestral diet influencer getting offended that the Brontosaurus rights group only talks about brontosaurs, or Dinocop commenting that, quote, sometimes you need to get really bored to understand real literature, end quote, while flipping through a book of dinosaur poetry, are exactly the sorts of jokes I'm talking about. They're irreverent and entertaining, but they're not exactly confronting, unless you base your whole identity around reading literary fiction, I guess, or you're a self-absorbed grifter, or both. They're delivered with the same absurdist tone as discovering the serial killer staying at a dinosaur hotel is only here because he's trying to cut back on the murders. He's only carrying around the knife because he finds it comforting, and he couldn't be the culprit anyway because he is in fact a vegetarian. A worried father comes running up to Dinocop asking for help, only to reveal he's a racist NIMBY who thinks the brontosaurs protesting the convention are up to no good, and he can't comprehend why they won't trust him when he's just trying to be a friendly neighbour. He claims to be doing it for his kid, but if he actually listened to her, he'd know she's already an outspoken supporter of Appy Blop, despite also being a fan of those class traitors in the Claw Patrol. Spip the bellhop feels like he's stuck in a dead-end job that's preventing him from chasing his dream of writing the next great American novel. And second of all, how fucking dare you? The game even gets in a jab against generative AI when Skunky the garbage machine claims it doesn't work for anyone. People work for it. Feed me or fuck off indeed. As with the presentation, it keeps things silly, just so when the time is right, it can really twist the knife. The dinosaur community is not the single homogeneous entity humanity considers it to be. It has some serious internal divides that drive the plot, the most prominent being the discrimination against brontosaurs. It's commonly believed brontosaurs were imperfectly cloned, that many are born with physical defects, and that they're better off sold to abattoirs so at least the meat won't be wasted. Dinosaurs overall already had to fight tooth and claw for recognition when humanity first brought them back. You can read a book about just how bad things got at the convention, so this tenuous arrangement is better than nothing. Many dinosaurs happily eat brontosaurus meat, including Dinocop. Sarah the chef is not a horrible person. She takes great pride in her skills and is a vegetarian, but she has no problem cooking that meat herself. Paco is a sentient chicken who sees brontosaur meat as a sustainable, ethical alternative to people eating his own kind. Listening to some of the arguments during the place in the middle where we might join each other or maybe not, I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. When it comes to meat consumption, we've got to find the right balance. A compromise between our nature and the culture we live in. Therefore, brontosaurus meat is the most ethical to consume, because brontosauruses are born with major handicaps that prevent them from living a fulfilling life.
This is a foolish argument. I'm so tired of hearing it. We brontosauruses simply have bodies and brains that do not fit with human societal standards. The devotees of the brontosaurus meat industry are nothing but tools of human propaganda. They've found a way to protect their own interests by throwing fellow dinosaurs under the bus to please the oppressor.
I agree with my friend. The brontosaurus meat industry is full of hypocrites. By grading the ethics of different kinds of meat, we're just playing into the hands of humans. The question is, should we still eat meat? If so, I don't see why we can't eat all meat. If human meat is off limits, it's only because humans think they are more important. Please, let's refrain from... I'm trying to copy the way he speaks in the game, and I can't do it. Please, let's refrain from... I'm gonna be here for fucking hours. Please, let's refrain from using alarming arguments for the sake of the show. Is it okay to sell baby brontosauruses to the meat industry? I think we should let the decision in the hands of the parents, really. Would the being they put into... I can't fucking do this. Would the being they put into life be more valuable... I can't even speak at all anymore. Would the being they put into life be more valuable to society as meat or as a living citizen? It's a personal decision. In human culture, it's unthinkable to sell one's own child to be made into meat. That's why there's no legal human meat on the market.
Yes, that is why the ethics of the brontosaurus meat industry are bogus. They don't take into account the fact that, for many brontosauruses, selling their offspring is the only way to make a living. Employers don't hire us because we're too big. We have to to rent adapted apartments that are rare and expensive. The world needs to be more open to the realities of brontosauruses before it thinks about eating us. And it just goes on. Yarn Zero brings up the PPP's proposed harm reduction program. Carmen criticizes it for not going far enough because if it did, the industry would run out of brontosaurus meat. And I just kept thinking, this is so fucked. And then it clicked. Like, right, yeah. Of course. This debate, and most of the political commentary going on in Dinocop, is in the spirit of issues minority groups have been dealing with for decades, but it's framed in terms someone from the majority can't dismiss with an immediate knee-jerk rejection the second they're confronted with the mildest of pushbacks. It's not even drawing from one specific group in one specific time or place. There are elements here from the Stolen Generation and other examples of indigenous peoples suffering at the hands of their colonizers. From the stereotype that Africans were better suited to slavery because they were strong enough to take it, from TERFs and bigots in the queer community throwing trans women under the bus to maintain the current state of normalcy, as though the leopards won't eat their faces the first chance they get. I'm sure there are some people who would consider bringing these issues up at all, even abstracted through a cast of cartoon dinosaurs, is too much. But the game isn't interested in engaging with them. Dinocop's opening moments almost seem precision engineered to filter them out so it can have a proper conversation with the players who are willing to meet it halfway. It's exhausting, and it's unfair, and it's confronting, and it's presented in such a way that I could see the game being a real eye-opener for some people. Indeed, there are a couple of Steam reviews expressing sentiments to that effect. I myself spent most of Dinocop thinking, preaching to the choir, mate. It was only when it took aim at eating meat specifically that I had to stop and reflect a little on what the game was saying. True, I've never eaten anything sentient, but they're still living beings, and I still benefit from the corruptions and cruelties of the real-life meat industry, given I don't have to kill or butcher the animals I consume. I can put that part of the process entirely out of mind. It's not the part of myself I thought would be confronted by Dinocop, but here we are. It's not all doom and spite, though. There's a lot of heart in the character writing that contrasts well with the looming threat of systemic inequality. Most of the characters have much more depth than their archetypical appearances would suggest. Fuck Off Steve seems like a send-up of certain punk rockers and rappers who started off as a provocative auteur writing music like Eat All Humans, only to settle for a comfy paycheck playing gigs at political conventions. But he's also a ride-or-die baseball fan who's been following the big birds since before dinosaurs were integrated into the human major league. Bert's clearly taking Carmen asking for some personal space hard. He's turned to associating with the exact sorts of people Dino lists despise as a coping mechanism, and he can't shut up about their falling out. But he's not wrong when he says she's starting to believe her own hype. She's grown to such mythic status in the movement that people crowd her in the lobby looking for autographs. Others are too scared to approach her when she's at her booth in the courtyard, but she ends each night falling asleep in the library trying to study theory. It's not a healthy way to live, especially in such a high-pressure job, and despite the fact she appears to have everything together, when you finally get into her room, you discover she lives in absolute squalor. Paco loves his family. Yarn Zero used to play for the big birds. Conrad is a metalhead. One of the Appy Blop protesters is a psychologist. Bianca rewards herself with a soft drink after every shift. And as a former hospitality worker myself, that's the realest shit in here. If I didn't get my little treat at the end of the day, I'd fucking kill ya. Bazaar will take a rest in the middle of the day. Mark sucks. Everyone is given something to make them stand out as individuals. Just about everyone has some sort of secret, but very few of them are dark. Most people present at the hotel are just trying to get by despite the murder at the heart of the conflict. Political satire is almost impossible to write at the moment. Aside from the fact it ages like full cream milk, the world is just too absurd to actually parody right now. Whatever you think of will be one-upped by reality well before you make it to print. So, instead of trying to outdo real life, Dinocop just leans into the insanity while keeping the characters grounded and relatable, because the issues they face are as old as the dinosaurs themselves. When the game says, quote, "If you don't vote for us, you're giving away your vote to the Kill All Dinosaurs party. And if you give away your vote to the Kill All Dinosaurs party, are you really a dinosaur?" End quote. I just lean back and think, yeah,
these guys get it. And I think that's why so much of the comedy landed for me in the end. It's not coming from a position of bad faith, nor is it really using humour as a defense against genuine criticism. It's more commenting that you have to laugh at this ridiculous shit, because otherwise all you're going to do is cry, and Dinocop is too much of an optimist for that. Uncovering the truth is only a matter of time. Everything at the hotel runs to a schedule. The convention only operates from 11 to 3. Earlier in the morning you can find people having breakfast in the diner or milling around the courtyard. Afterwards they'll retreat to the lounge for a game of pool, or gather in the lobby for an impromptu meeting, and eventually they'll retire to their rooms for the night. Things certainly settle down the later it gets, but the hotel is never completely empty. Spip the bellhop is a fixture of the lobby even once the sun goes down. Bianca will get up early for the diner's morning shift, the janitor will stay up late playing chess with himself, and hey, inversely, fuck off Steve will always be late arriving at the convention because he spends each night drinking himself under the bed. Getting a handle on everyone's whereabouts each day is a key component to cracking the case, to the point that it's recorded in your journal, and you'll need it too because there are 20 odd characters to keep an eye on. Interacting with your persons of interest at each stop on their itinerary updates your day planner, and if there's something specific you need to do with them, it'll be marked with a yellow exclamation point. Knowing where someone isn't can be just as important as knowing where they are if you need to sneak into their room for a little peek at their private lives, or just steal their shit for yourself. It's not quite a time loop in the traditional sense, since each day only represents a mechanical reset rather than a narrative one. All your progress is preserved, and schedules do sometimes change as a result of your actions, but the concept is similar. Honestly, I think it's better. Everyone's itineraries are tied to their characters, and the constant hustle and bustle during the day contrasts well with the eerie quiet of the late night hours. I especially loved the vibe of the diner in the evening. It really captured the essence of a dinner rush. There are also no time restrictions. Yarn Zero will keep pushing back the end of the convention until your investigation is complete, so you can take as many days as you need to crack the case. Which is just as well, because for the first few days, I was more interested in being a nosy bitch than solving a murder. Of course, in being a nosy bitch, I ended up uncovering several leads that proved extremely important to the case well ahead of schedule. I didn't find the key to Kronjaeger's room by eavesdropping on Bianca and Adore grumbling about the convention guests, or stopping by the lounge for a game of pool with Bob the gardener and his mate. I found it by noticing one of the toilets was clogged, which led me to the janitor, who sent me to Skunky the machine who eats garbage, and then my mission became collecting enough cans to unlock the plunger. I spent so long exploring the lounge and the courtyard on the day of arrival that when Dinocop got jumped by a spooky ghost when the clock struck 6, I still hadn't actually met anyone attending the convention. When Dinocop woke up the next morning with Kronjaeger at his bedside, he may as well have been a stranger. I'd played a little of Dinocop back at release, so I sort of knew my way around the convention anyway, but it wasn't even a conscious decision on my part this time around. My nose just led me in a different direction, which is probably Dinocop's greatest mechanical strength. There's no hand-holding, and very little railroading. Some plot beats are gated behind certain items you can only acquire by completing specific quests, which can lead to a bit of a bottleneck in the mid-game, but otherwise, you're free to investigate the hotel at your discretion. Being a raptor, Dinocop has a heightened sense of smell, and the hotel is absolutely wretched with different stinks to investigate, which you can find at the touch of a button. Half the reason to explore is just to clear out the hotel's mold problem so it stops clogging up Dinocop's nose, but there are many more to find, all of them a mystery until you sniff out the source. Digging out a patch of mold is easy enough, but figuring out what's stinking up the doorknob to room 202 or the payphone in the courtyard takes a lot more work. Once you've found a point of interest, you've also got to investigate it with your trusty magnifying glass, which is how you learn all the juicy details you're after. It's not the only way though. Sometimes all you need to do is talk to someone to get a nudge in the right direction. Sometimes it's the environment that needs a little nudge instead, but occasionally people may require a little more privacy before they'll start speaking their mind. Outside of unclogging the toilet to get the key to Kronjaeger's room, the plunger doesn't factor into the mystery all that much, but it can make you a lot of money. Half the reason to go snooping through everyone's shit is to inhale loose corpses coins and dollar bills like a pig at the trough, or else to take their clothes for your own. Some of them you can buy from Bazaar's shop, but if you want this cool ring, or this band shirt, or these red shoes, you'll need to live up to Dinocop's scientific name. The clothing system doesn't ultimately factor much into the game, you only really need to use it twice for actual progression, but I think its real function is to offer some sort of reward for following a red herring to its conclusion. Sometimes thorough exploration just ends with a new fit, an extra stack of coins, or some trash for Skunky's recycling unit, but just as often it opens up a new avenue of investigation. Digging up dirt balls in the garden revealed these scraps of torn up paper long before they actually became important. Taking a look at all the kiosks around the convention hall made me better equipped to participate in the place in the middle where we might join each other but maybe not debate. Reading through the memorial to the local Dino League baseball team, the Monstevraf Big Birds, in the first 20 minutes of the run ended up playing a central part in the game's climax 9 hours later, stumbling into quiet character moments like Carmen having a snooze in the library late at night, or Conrad having a soak in the garden without hearing about them first felt so much more rewarding than just being told how to find them. But having one of the characters offer the final piece in a puzzle after being stuck on it for ages was equally as exciting, and both will be completely different between playthroughs. It is hard to get stuck though, since the caseboard records every clue you find, and even connects relevant cases to one another as you unravel the central mystery. The game was so good at telegraphing everything that I never really needed it though. It was only in the second half, as I started cutting off all the different investigative branches, that I had to lean on it for directions, but the fact I never found myself hard stuck is also really impressive. Even when I hit that mid-game roadblock, I knew what I had to do. It was just figuring out how that was the problem. Part of it was just being in the right place at the right time, though there are ways to skip to certain hours if you need to. Mostly, I just walked myself into it. I was having too much fun getting into every area of the hotel, figuring out everyone's timetables, making some lovely dino friends, just devouring everything Dinocop had to offer, that when it actually threw up a proper progress gate, I had nowhere else to go. I had to focus on the task at hand before I could continue. And speaking of, before I get everyone together to bring the case home, I'm going to drop a spoiler warning. If you want to experience all the twists and turns of Dinocop yourself, go to here. A quick tour of the building reveals there's no human meat to be found. Instead, let's go over the suspects. Sarah the chef abides by the letter of the law. It's not her, nor is it her sister Paola's last-minute substitute assistants. Their plan amounts to nothing more than a late-night party. Ray the serial killer seems like the obvious choice, but while he's a murderer of human beings, he's not a cannibal. He doesn't even eat at all. He doesn't even eat meat at all. His remorse even leads him to join Appyblop to advocate for Brontosaurus rights, though he's got a long way to go before he stops acting like a cringy, well-intentioned ally. And third of all, how fucking dare you? Appyblop are all too busy to have planted the meat. When Dinocop suggests that they killed a man and planted the corpse at the convention to get the kitchen shut down, they're just like, of course. Why didn't we think of that? Ray's certainly happy to pitch in. They're not behind the call, but they do put you on the trail of the answer. Something's up with Kronjaeger. He's racked with guilt. Something confirmed by a quick snoop around his hotel room. Maybe killing a man was too much for him. But before you can lay the blame at his feet, you find the truth. Or so it seems. An awkward date with Bert leads to him knocking down the door to Carmen's room, where you find none other than a bag of human meat. It seems she has escalated beyond the mere rhetoric of her zines, but something seems wrong. Carmen's reaction isn't that of a guilty woman. She's the obvious culprit, but she's also got a lot of enemies in high places. As she says, quote, "I'm a dinosaur and a controversial public figure. My whole profile plays against me," end quote. This is an obvious frame-up, but there's nothing she can do if Dinocop decides to take the easy way out and slap her in cuffs. And you can do so, but by arresting her, you ensure that Carmen takes the blame. The meat will mysteriously disappear on its way to the lab for analysis. A clerical error happens all the time, it'll turn up eventually, and Carmen will likely be executed for the crime regardless. Dinocop may be a bastard, but he's not an idiot. He agrees to get the meat analysed, and not by cops. That would be as bad as handing her over as well. Of course, with Mark watching the perimeter at all hours of the day, it's going to be a little tricky finding a way to get it analysed on site. Perhaps then it's fuck off Steve. After a particularly drunken night at the diner, he leaves behind a letter addressed to Carmen suggesting he'd like to get some of his punk cred back by putting his money where his mouth is. Confronting him at the convention gets you nowhere, but trailing him through the night reveals that while he's no fan of humanity, he's got a particular hatred for Yarn Zero. Once upon a time they were close, but as Yarn's star has risen, fuck off Steve's only grown resentful of the fact he's dependent on Zero for gigs, as his endorsement of the pro-progress party's thinly veiled eugenics policies go against his legit dino-list beliefs. He still needs the money, but by taking it he's seen as a sellout, and it's slowly killing him, hence his letter to Carmen. It's the only way he can think of to break free of the cage he's become trapped within. He's more interested in clearing the name of disgraced Dino League baseball player foosball Opef Sandro, who was caught doping right before dinosaurs were integrated into the MLB. So no, fuck off Steve is just a red herring. Getting back on the trail of Kronjaeger and Paco, it turns out they do have a dirty little secret to hide, but it's not a murder. They're addicted to mushrooms that make people act weird, which they partake in each night while locked in the basement lounge bathroom. It's not really proof of anything, other than Kronjaeger has relapsed since trying to quit the stuff, but it does make them chatty. Paco's got a brother who's meant to be at the convention too, but he and Conrad are the only chickens present in the hotel. I guess I should mention now that there are also giant sentient chickens in this world. They're even distinguished from food chickens by being called citizen chickens, and they seem to be even lower down the pecking order than dinosaurs. Sarah notes a lot of dinosaurs look down on chickens, and feels terrible for bullying Conrad the way she's heard other kitchens do their chicken employees. Paco himself has a PhD and is fighting for chicken rights. It's a small aspect of the world building compared to the dinosaurs, but it does add a lot of unspoken complexity. What's important to this discussion is that human meat tastes and smells very similar to chicken meat, because I guess having sentient pigs show up would have just been too on the nose even for this game, which is the whole reason Carmen wants the bag of mystery meat analysed, and why no one at the convention can recall smelling any long pork when Dinocop asks. So we've got a missing chicken, and a bag of unidentified meat. The pieces are starting to fall into place, but we still need to know beyond a reasonable doubt that the bag contains Paco's brother. Thankfully, the mushrooms are exactly what we need. The whole game, the maid's cart has been stinking up the hotel, but until now the source of the smell has been a mystery. Turns out, it stinks of mushrooms that make people act weird, and trailing the maid back to the laundry reveals an operation that would make Walter White green with envy. It's perfectly legal, and she doesn't sell to humans anyway, so for the time being she's not technically committing any crimes, but she is willing to examine the bag, and what she finds confirms what we suspected. The meat belongs to a chicken. Combine that with the cloves belonging to Paco's brother hidden in the dumpster out the front of the hotel, and that's a murder. It's here that Dinocop plays its best hand. The game reflects the absurdist timeline that we're on with the ridicule it merits by rendering it as a colourful cartoon full of quirky dinosaurs, but the men responsible for that absurdity are treated with the deathly seriousness they deserve. Its villains are extremely dangerous, not in spite of how easy it is to mock them, but because it is easy to mock them. Laughing at the funny bad man won't stop them pulling the trigger when they get the chance. The embarrassment might actually push them to it faster, as it does with Mark the second he's confronted with evidence of Paco's missing brother. He starts off dismissive. Weren't you supposed to be looking for human meat? But when Dinocop presses the point, he gets defensive. It's not like it's his job to keep track of who throws out the garbage. Then, he gets dangerous. Better call for backup. A chicken is missing, after all, and at last the mask comes off. The casual racism collapses beneath a tide of bigotry, and in Dinocop's rush to stop him calling for backup, the car keys slip down a drain. It's too much for Mark to handle. He pulls a gun on Dinocop, telling him to get the fuck out of the way before bolting himself. But that's not Dinocop's style. It seems obvious in hindsight, but the game had put in enough work that when Mark brought out his handgun, I genuinely didn't know how the scene was going to end. Whether he'd pull the trigger or someone would come running out to help. Coward that he is, that all bigots are, it only makes sense that he runs. And in doing so, reveals another piece of the puzzle. Mark had someone locked in the boot of his cruiser, who confirms Parko's brother was murdered, but won't say anything more before getting out. Retrieving the keys requires making friends with the hotel's rat colony, who are also apparently sentient in this world, but returning to the cop car reveals something even juicier. The dinosaur tied up in the boot is, in fact, the ghost who bashed Dinocop the night of his arrival. He was hired to keep Dinocop from getting in the way of the plan, and maybe took the opportunity to beat up a cop a little too enthusiastically, but he didn't sign up for murder, so when he found Mark standing over the body of Parko's brother, he tried to dip, and ended up in the boot for his troubles. So Mark killed Parko's brother to frame Carmen as an eater of humans and remove her as a popular dino list figure. That's certainly part of it, and there's definitely a tradition of oppressive systems breaking the law to get rid of their loudest detractors, but Mark never entered the hotel. There's another conspirator on the inside, and all signs point to Kronjaeger the Butcher. He's plagued with guilt, he's relapsed into old addictions, his usual cocky attitude vanishes whenever Parko's brother is brought up, and how else did he know Mark rented a room for Dinocop after his ghostly encounter? Why would he and Mark know each other at all? Kronjaeger benefits just as much from Carmen's execution as humanity, given the Brontosaurus meat industry relies on systemic discrimination to keep the slaughterhouses full. There's just one problem. Kronjaeger clearly didn't sew the ghost costume, and nor did Mark. He was born to enforce borders, not do anything useful. There's another member of the conspiracy staying at the hotel, and their identity is... Racist Dad. No, it's Yarn Zero. Obviously, it's Yarn Zero. The game's been dropping clues since you arrived at the hotel. He eats breakfast with Kronjaeger and Parko every morning. He even greets you with, quote, "Don't you have enough shady friends, officer?" End quote. When you first join them, he wears a tailored suit. His autobiography is an obvious riff on a real-world book about Jeff's BFF. He speaks openly to Sarah about how he intends to shake up the regulations of the Brontosaurus meat industry. He keeps pushing the end of the convention back so that the investigation can be concluded before he gives his keynote speech, and by fuck off Steve's own admission, he is hell-bent on being the first elected dinosaur politician, the same way he was to be the first dinosaur drafted to the MLB after integration. In fact, fuck off Steve believes Yarn Zero orchestrated Foosball's doping scandal just so he would be the first dinosaur drafted into the MLB. He just can't prove it. The whole time I was uncovering the murder of Parko's brother, I was looking into fuck off Steve's claims about Yarn Zero. Parallel investigation spiraling inward to the same conclusion. From a chance walk through the Dino League baseball gallery in the lounge 20 minutes into the game, suddenly I was discovering secret rooms hidden behind broken trophies, and secret identities because fuck off Steve didn't just know Foosball, he is Foosball, and he wants to know if Yarn Zero ruined his life. He's never anything but pleasant to fuck off Steve in public, but he can't shake the feeling that something's off, so you dress up as fuck off Steve to catch Yarn Zero in a lie. It's a good enough disguise that Adore and Bianca mistake you for Steve, or Mr. Fuck Off, and Yarn Zero doesn't suspect a thing. Still, he's nothing but courteous in a crowd, in a one-on-one public conversation, even alone in his suite, and Spip's logbook confirms he doesn't have a set of keys to fuck off Steve's room. It seems like paranoia, until you accept Yarn Zero's invitation to visit him alone in his penthouse suite. Have a seat, Foozer. The facade drops. He's dismissive of fuck off Steve's concerns and treats him like an idiot. He's inattentive to the conversation, and he leaves to piss almost immediately, which gives Dinocop the perfect opportunity to go snooping. You find another secret room behind the fireplace, and inside, the same dirty money you found in Kronjaeger's room. The bottle of surface cleaner used to wipe down the courtyard phone after Jan himself called in the anonymous tip, the fabric used to make the ghost costume, the glue used to bind it together, and the spare key to Carmen's room in order to plant the evidence. Jan Zero wasn't just in on the conspiracy, he orchestrated it. This moment gave me chills, and when Jan Zero returned, you didn't want me to get drafted. What? Oh my god, Fuza, you're such a pathetic little bitch. You're still talking about this. Nobody cares. It's irrelevant. I'm working on real shit now. Things that are going to change the course of history, not fucking sports. Oh. Sometimes I forget how dumb you are. Of course it was me. You weren't strong-willed enough to become the first dinosaur drafted in the MLB. Sure, you had the skills, but the character? You would have made a fool out of yourself. The first dinosaur player drafted in the MLB couldn't be a bust. I always thought it was an unsaid agreement we had. I saved you from becoming a joke. I became a joke because you stole this dream from me. I became a joke because you stole this dream from me. Look, Fuza, it was always going to be me. Not you. Jan Zero is about to become the first elected dinosaur politician. We don't play in the same leagues. A sports metaphor. Your little brain can understand it, right? This whole conversation had my blood boiling. The shift in persona from Jan's public-facing charisma to his true self was incredible. Mark and Kronjaeger both suck, but they are honest monsters, doing what they do to maintain privilege and profit respectively. They have beliefs, even if they're backward. Jan Zero only believes in himself. He would still be acting this way whatever his heritage or societal norms, and that's what makes him the most dangerous person in Dinocop. It also makes him the vilest. He doesn't see himself as part of a political movement, representative of one side or the other. He wants people to see him as Jan Zero first and a dinosaur second. His only desire is power, and he's willing to climb over a lot of corpses to get it. Something the system is more than happy to allow as long as he plays along. Something reflected in his species, Psittacosaurus, parrot lizard, parroting human talking points for his own benefit at the expense of everyone else. But the fact he sees it as a game is what really elevates him as a villain. It's not enough for him to dispassionately accrue power. He has to make it personal by ruining Foosball's career in baseball, by framing Carmen to get her jailed or executed, even though both would probably be willing to work with him if he made the effort to meet them halfway as a friend or a colleague. But instead, he invents these one-sided competitions to win, and then awards himself first place, even though he still has to cheat to get it. Buddying up to humanity is the quickest way to get the power he wants, so that's the road he'll take, and anyone who tries to stop him is just collateral damage. Dinocop lays it all out with Fuck Off Steve down in his secret lair. Jan made the call hours before the murder so that no one would realise the disappearance of Paco's brother was connected to the anonymous tip, all to frame Carmen. Mark did the deed on orders from someone higher up the law enforcement food chain while the ghost was dealing with Dinocop, and Kronjaeger sold them Paco's brother in exchange for Jan deregulating the Brontosaurus meat industry. By postponing the keynote speech until after the investigation ends, Jan himself gets to appear tough on dinosaur crime to human voters, and that he's the voice of reason compared to Carmen to dino voters. All three get rid of a popular political opponent, and can scapegoat Dinocop as bad at his job if the truth eventually comes out. Only they didn't plan on Dinocop getting the meat independently analysed, and now here we are. They can't go to the cops. There's no justice that way. The only way to bring the conspiracy to light is in the place in the middle where we might join each other but maybe not. The stage is set for the final roundup, an Agatha Christie classic where our erstwhile investigator gathers all the suspects together to trick the true culprit into revealing themselves. Mark is long gone. Kronjaeger's already resigned to his fate. All that's left is to pin Jan down and make him squirm. It's easy enough hijacking the debate, but right as you're about to present evidence of Jan's guilt, the convention is raided by cops. Mark's returned, and he's brought back up. The cops are able to turn the discussion around on Dinocop. They show him sneaking into hotel rooms and stealing loose change, things you had to do to crack the case, things you didn't even think about as you were doing them hours earlier. It's a great little dovetail between mechanics and plot, and is all the evidence needed to have Dinocop and Carmen arrested for conspiring preparing to commit a terrorist act against Yarn Zero's speech during the convention. Dinocop tries to appeal to Kronjaeger, but he gets cold feet. Everything goes down exactly as Yarn Zero had hoped. But of course, there was never any chance of justice in a world like this. Forget it, man. It's Dino Town. That joke would land a lot better if it really was called Dino Town. Forget it, man, it's Monstevereth, just doesn't land. Fuck! Anyway, Dinocop and Carmen are arrested, and the Dino List movement is split in two. Kronjaeger escapes the justice system, but he loses a devastated Paco, who leaves the butcher to stew in his own guilt. Fuck off Steve remains shackled to Yarn Zero, who happily takes the stage to deliver his keynote speech at last. A lot of you may wonder why I kept delaying this event, and even though during the time I was waiting in my room for my team to give the green light, all I wanted was to scream and tell you all, we won't back down. We will win. I had no choice but to keep my mouth shut for a little bit. I had to preserve everyone's safety. A few days ago, I was informed by law enforcement officials that nefarious individuals were planning to disturb our Great Dinosaurs Rights Convention. They brought human meat to the hotel, and we have reasons to believe they planned to plant disguised devices on and around this stage to attack us while the meat would fall on me, and on you in the crowd, as I was talking. Why did they plan this terrorist attack? Well, I'm sure most of you get a grasp of the situation. These individuals think I'm a traitor because I'm the first dinosaur candidate for a traditional human-led party. They wished I didn't work with humans, that I didn't help a human party get into power. To these people, I ask this simple question. What are you doing to build a better world? It's true that humans have wronged us many times, and on multiple levels, and that a lot of them continue to do so. We just have to think of the dangerous people of the Kill All Dinosaurs party. We can't even begin to imagine an end to their intolerance. But that's exactly why I consider that what I do is so important. Collaboration between humans and dinosaurs is essential to the well-being of all. Now is not the time for terror. Now is not the time for panic. Now is the time for reparation, for dialogues. What happened today belongs to the old world, the one in which dinosaurs act in ways that fuels the hate of the Kill All Dinosaurs party. Even my childhood friend, Steve, doesn't want to eat all humans anymore. In the new world, we live alongside humans. We work together. We enjoy baseball. We share the streets. Because deep down, we dinosaurs know that humans have wronged us, but we give them another chance. We trust them again. After all, they gave us the greatest gift you can give to a being you love. A second chance at life. I'm gonna kill this fucking dinosaur. I'm gonna bring dinosaurs back from extinction just for the pleasure of killing him again. Send Yarn Zero to hell. I genuinely can't remember the last time a game made me so angry. And had Dinocop ended here, it would have been perfect. Noir as a genre is not known for its happy endings, and the hero uncovering the truth, only to be crushed beneath the dispassionate heel of the system while the true villains walk free, would have placed Dinocop in the tradition of James Ellroy and L.A. Noire. The whole game has been hammering home how the system exists to protect itself, and it's bigger than any one person can hope to destroy. Dinocop never had a chance in hell of bringing Yarn Zero, Mark, or even Kronjaeger to justice. Had the game ended here, I would have been content. I would have been fucking angry, but it would have been a stronger work of art for the decision. Instead, after Yarn's speech, you regain control of Dinocop and escape with Carmen for one last run through the hotel, now infested with cops. Stealth has technically been present right from the start. You need to sneak through the long grass in the garden a couple times to crack the case, but it's hardly a central mechanic, and it's pretty scuffed either way. The cops being blind to you running right by them might make for good verisimilitude, but it's not engaging gameplay. The looping route you take around the hotel isn't that fun either, because it's also a massive departure. Dinocop is all about player freedom, being able to investigate whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. So to then switch to railroading you down a linear path in the last 30 minutes feels out of step with the rest of the experience. The worst sin this whole epilogue commits in my mind is that it doesn't actually change anything. Dinocop and Carmen reunite with Bert, they reunite with Appy Blop, but even though the route takes them right by each and every one of their enemies, Yarn Zero, Dino, Kronjaeger, Mark, Walter White for some reason, none of them face any sort of comeuppance, which I think at least one of them really needed to for this epilogue to land. The comedy is still on point, but it doesn't sate the anger. Carmen even comments, quote, "This is a pretty anticlimactic ending to such a good game, but nobody can say it's unrealistic," end quote, before clarifying that life is a game. And she's right, but bolting on this epilogue where nothing actually changes maintains the original anticlimax. Kronjaeger has to live with his guilt, at least that's something. Mark's become a laughingstock for how he fumbled his part of the plan, but he doesn't regret that he was part of it to begin with, and Yarn Zero doesn't face any kind of consequence at all. You might actually make things worse by potentially killing this raptor on your way out the door, and it could have been so easy for the explosion you set off as a distraction to blast the stage apart and take Yarn Zero's head off, or to have Ray relapse into serial killing, as he even suggests when you meet up with Appy Blop, or to have Fuck Off Steve finally stand up to his abuser after so many years. Instead, the best you get is the option to flatten all the cop cars as you make your escape. The one good thing about this whole epilogue is that it does resolve Dinocop's identity crisis. So much of his character arc throughout the game has been about the fact he was born to serve a purpose. The idea that a Dinocop should be free to be whoever he wants has been simmering away ever since the start of the game, and now, exiled from his home and on the run, he has no choice but to choose a new identity. One positive note right before the credits doesn't make this a happy ending. Carmen is right when she says it's unfair she'll never be able to live her normal life again, all because some ghoul like Yarn Zero used her as a scapegoat. But because it does close on such a positive note, it ends up being an extremely discordant one too. If Dinocop was always going to end this way anyway, it should have rolled credits after Yarn's speech, because all this does is build up hope that you're going to set things right, only to pull the rug out from under the audience again. I've seen multiple Steam reviews declaring this as unnecessary sequel bait, but I don't think that was the intention. This is a complete ending, it's just not a very satisfying one. If Pisces Games wanted this epilogue in here, then I really think one of the villains needed some sort of definitive comeuppance. The way it leaves them hanging just doubles the sensation of anticlimax. It's a frustrating end to an otherwise excellent game. But hey, that's Dinocop, baby. Nope, still doesn't land. Fuck it, I'm leaving it in. Dinocop is a fantastic mystery game, one of the best I've ever played. It reminded me why I love this genre so much, and why it can be so frustrating. There were so many traps Dinocop could have fallen into. It could have made the whole setting nothing but dinosaurs, or treated its subject matter with a callous flippancy reflective of its cartoony art style, or chased a shallow us versus them agenda. But by putting in the effort to make the world feel real and layered, by taking the time to give the characters depth, by actually engaging with the political ideas it's talking about, Pisces Games have achieved something really special. It's only at the final hurdle that the game stumbles, but that doesn't ruin the whole experience. I'm still sad it's over. It was a great dinosaur game, a great mystery game, and a great work of political satire, one that may actually stand the test of time since it's not anchored to any specific contemporary allegory. I do still have a terrible feeling I'll replay it in 10 years and think, man, we thought things in 2025 were bad, the way I do now going back to works written before 2020, but who knows. I've run out of things to say now, so yeah, case closed. Thanks for watching. And that's the video. Before I go, I'd like to thank by name the people supporting me with $5 US a month or more on Patreon. Anonymous, Abril, Azazel, Cass, Hawkwing2652, Hey Matey, Heavy, Jeffiet, Jeff Ladd, Captain Ketchup, Paranoid Android, Reaper2122, Rock or something, Michael Bebop, Sam Hodge, Sminglis, Sarah Bloomer, Sarah Your Friend, Smorsky, Sneezy McGlassface, Space Quest Historian, That One Turian, The Official 476, This Sauerkraut, Thomas Angel, Thomas Elliott, Tree 3 Angry Bees, Ursa, and Zeke the Phantom. Thank you so much. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.